Welcome back to the Itsy Game Series. This is series number 7. Today we're going to create our C++ character class. We are finally moving out of the setting up our project and the planning phase and into some implementation. So super exciting. We're actually going to deep dive, or not necessarily deep dive, but we're going to dive into some C++. We're going to create our character class. We're going to set up our camera and our spring arms. That way they maintain the proper perspective for a 2.5D game. And then we're gonna set up and implement our move forward and our move right and our jump. So at the end of this one, your character is gonna move. The camera is gonna be the way it's supposed to be. The character is gonna orient to the movement. He's gonna move forward. He's gonna move back. He's gonna move right. You're gonna be able to jump. It's gonna be a good time. Like you're gonna get done. And if you're following along and you're new to game dev, that first time you get your character to move around and actually do something in a game is super exciting, and I don't know, makes me warm and fuzzy inside. Hopefully it does you as well. So I'll stop jabberjawing and let's get over to Unreal and let's make this stuff happen. Okay, so I had started this recording and I had a bit of a coughing fit. I'm still getting over a bit of a cold. So what I did before this is I deleted that original we made that blueprint just to like show what the mesh would look like within a character. So I got rid of that. But other than that, the project is exactly where we left it in the last tutorial. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start creating C++ classes. We're actually going to get into C++. I know it's taken, like 7 videos to get to this point, but all this setup is just, it's nice having our work environment the way we want it. So before we build our first class, what you're going to want to do is I would go here to editor setting. Let's see here, editor preferences, I believe, and then live coding. So live coding is cool. It lets you like change code like on the fly. It's really nice, but I tend to not like it when I'm doing major changes, like creating a bunch of classes, messing with like the underlying C++ of my project. So until I get later on and I've got like the framework built and I'm really just changing variables and adding small tweaks, I don't really want to mess with the live coding. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. And that's a personal preference thing. There's nothing wrong with running it. It's just a little bit different. So I went ahead and turned that off. And that's all you have to do is just uncheck it. You can check it back on at any point. Not a big deal. So now I've got that done. I can go into my C++ classes, right click and create a new C++ class. So creating a class is dead simple. You pick what class it is, you hit next, and then you name it. So in this case, we're doing a character. So if you go back, it's right here. It's in one of the, it's a standard one, so it just pops up right away. So we're gonna do character, and then we're gonna name it Itsy underscore char base. So that's for our base character. And then I'm leaving the Itsy underscore because it's basically, my project name underscore and then whatever the class is. It's just kind of the naming convention that just, standard. It'll make it easier to tell what classes are from my work and what are from like the engine itself. So we're going to do that and then make sure you want this to be in your Itsy final runtime or whatever your project name is, runtime. The actual character, we don't want to put that inside one of our modules. We're going to use our modules for other things later on. And so the character itself will use the things that we make out of our, that we put into our gameplay, but that'll be working through interfaces. So that way everything is nice and encapsulated in such a way that it doesn't stretch beyond the bounds of those modules. So that's all we need to do with that. So just hit create class. And then, we'll pop up in Visual Studio. Let it do its thing. Okay, so you may see things a little bit different than from what I see as far as you're coding. So I'm using ReSharper from JetBrains. I really like using it. I thought about taking it out, but I like having it, so I'm going to go ahead and keep using it. So when you're doing things, you probably won't get as many of the prompted, like hints or follow through code that I get. You can get JetBrain, get ReSharper yourself. I'm not a paid actor, so you do you. But if you're a student somewhere, like you're in college or school or wherever, and you've got a student email, you can get a student license for free, or you can pay for it for like 14 bucks a month. So just to give you a heads up on that. So that being said, we can go ahead and get started. So if you are new to C++, this might be a little fast for you, but I'm going to walk through everything. I'm not going to go into a ton of this is how C++ works. I'll talk about some things, but I'm not going to get crazy with it. Mostly we're just trying to create the thing. If, my viewers, if you show up and you want me to make more like, this is how we do the C++ and more of the background there, mention, and I'll, try to teach what I can. So anyway, that being said, we have our character. We've got our .h and our CPP file. So that's what we need to get going here for these characters. We're going to start adding some things to it. So up here in public, our first public block here, and our .h, we're going to add some additional things that the base class doesn't have. So it does come with a mesh, a collision capsule, and a mesh, collision capsule, and a movement component. And the movement component's one of the reasons why we picked the character over the APON. So we're going to be using all three of those things. But what it doesn't come with is a camera. So that's the first thing we're going to set up here. So we're going to need, we'll start with the camera, I guess. So it's going to be UPROPERTY. And then we're going to make an edit anywhere. And then, let's see here, blueprint. We'll make it blueprint rewrite for now. I might lock it down later. And category, we're going to name that camera. Okay, so if you haven't done a lot of Unreal C++, this is actually C# code, and it helps the reflection system be able to see what's going on. It's kind of like it creates a wrapper around your code. It does a bunch of boilerplate that we don't have to deal with. So anywhere you see like a UProperty or a UFUNCTION, that's what that's doing. If you're really interested in a real deep dive into all of these different the macros and the metadata tags that go with it, on my website, I made a spreadsheet with like pretty much all of them, or at least all the active ones in UE5. So I'll put a link in the description for that when I get this shipped out. So you don't need to know them all, but like I said, I took that and made a reference, so I had a reference for it, and it's mostly just pulling off of what's in the source code. So anyway, let's make our camera. So it's going to be class UCameraComponent, and that's a reference to that. My eyes are not working. There we go. And then we're going to call it camera. Then we're going to do UProperty. And then same thing, edit anywhere. And blueprint, read write. Category, camera. The category is going to show how it shows up within the editor. So like these will all be in a camera dropdown. So class USpringArm. USpringArmComponent. And then it's going to be cam boom. I don't know why everybody names it cam boom, but it seems to be like the thing because it's a camera boom, what holds the camera in place. So we've got that there. What these will do is these will set those up for us to use in the constructor. So we're going to go over there and we're going to do some work over here in the constructor. If you're familiar with C++ and you're new to Unreal, just one of the things that I picked up along the way that's just kind of keep in the back of your head, you're very much locked in with the way the constructor works. Like some of the stuff you can do in regular C++, you cannot do in here. Like I can't like redo the constructor to take in arguments or any of that stuff. You know, the instructor is the instructor, and it is. If you want to do that sort of stuff, you got to do it with different ways. So let me pull up my reference sheet here. Make sure I'm getting the stuff that I wanted to do. So the first thing we're going to want to set up is actually going to be the camera boom, even though we opened them up on the other side in the opposite order. So we're going to we're going to start with the cam boom. And it's going to equal, let's create default subject object. And then it's USpringArmComponent. Okay, and then need to give it a name, so it's text. And then we will call that cam boom. So there you go. So that will create the default subobject and get that all set up. If you're I believe ReSharper is doing this for me. It's just throwing my includes up there as I start referencing stuff. If you don't have ReSharper, this up here, it's going to be the include. You're going to need the SpringArmComponent and a camera. I don't think I'm using anything else in this one, but I'll put the links in the to the documentation below. All right, so once we've created it, like it's there, it exists, we can then go cam boom, and we need to attach it, so we're going to set up attachment, and we want the camera boom to be attached to the root component, which is going to be the capsule. So set up attachment, and we're going to say get root component, and then that's going to square that away. And then while we're in the cam boom, we want to say cam boom. All right. We want the cam boom to essentially be locked to a world rotation. So we want it to use world rotation, not the local rotation of the character, because we're going to be moving the character in not independent, but in reference to the camera. So we want this to use an absolute rotation. So instead of like getting its rotation from the character, it gets its rotation is based on the world around it. All right, so once we have that set up, let's see here. We can set up our camera. So camera is going to be equal to create default subobject again, and this time it's going to be UCameraComponent. There we go. And then text. That's going to be camera. And then that's set up. Now we want to attach the camera to the end of the camera boom. So we're going to do the same kind of thing, but we're going to attach it a little bit different. Camera. Set up attachment. And then it's going to be cam boom. And then the socket location. So a camera boom has a socket kind of built into it. So that's going to work out pretty good. So you got a USpringArmComponent, and then it's going to be socket name. So that is the end of the socket, or the end of the spring arm. So you'll see right there, it's the name of the end of the spring arm. So now our camera is then going to be attached to the boom. So when the boom moves, the camera is going to go with the far end of the boom. All right, so we have that set up. And then let's see here, what else? I think while we're in here, we can set up a couple of other little things. So let's see here. B use controller pitch equal false. B use controller roll, false, and B use controller yaw equal false. We're going to set those for now. And then we're going to grab the movement component. Movement. Let's see here. I believe it's get mirror. Yep. And get character movement component, or get character movement dot. Okay, set. Let's see here. Gotta try to remember the name of it. Load current. No. Orient. Yeah, here it is. B orient to rotation. Orient rotation to movement. So what that's going to do is that's going to. There we go. What that's going to do is when we move, the actual character is going to then rotate towards the movement. So like when we go left, he's going to go left. If you turn around, he'll like flip all the way around and then go back the other way. And that'll make a lot of sense when we get to the other end. And we're like actually throwing him together in Unreal, which we'll do here shortly once we get the movement and everything set up. Okay, so the camera boom's in. Let's set some default values for the boom. Let's see here, cam boom set length. Let's see, set actually cam boom spring arm. No. I want to say it's length. Well, you know what? Let's just go into the documentation. That will probably be the smart way to play it. Okay. So this is the documentation here. All right. So what we're looking for is going to be the target. There it is. Target arm length. Now I don't know if. Let me double check. See if there's a function to set it. Get target rotation. No. Yeah. No. It's just the variable itself. So it's target arm length. That's the one we're looking for. Okay. So we want target arm length, and we're going to make that, I don't know, let's say 500. And we'll set that there. And then as far as the rotation, I think we'll come back and add the rotation later after we've because we can in the editor, we can adjust it and then see what value looks nice, and then we can go back in and hard place it for the defaults. All right, so that's good, and now it's time to do some movement. So in order for him to move, we need him to move forward and right for now, and then I think we're going to also do a jump. So we'll come down here and new function. And then we can just leave that blank. I just like to have it in there so that way it gets picked up by the reflection system. So it's going to be void for its return type, and it's going to be move forward. And then it's going to take a float. And we'll just call that amount. Okay. And then we need another one for move right. Its signature is going to look pretty much the same. All right, so we've got move forward, move right by a float and amount. And then we're also going to override jump. So we're going to do, let's see here. Void. I guess jump. Yeah, jump override. So it's just like that, jump override. We're probably going to later on go back in and change the jump, but for now, just a standard jump is going to work just fine to at least get us where we're trying to go. You'll notice that I didn't add the U function above this. If you do put a U function above something you're overriding, it's going to cause your build to fail. So just a heads up there. Whenever you override a function, you don't need to have the C# wrapper around it. You don't want that there. Okay, so now that those are there, we can go ahead and create them over here in our our CPP file. So let's see here, Itsy, and we're going to do move forward, and then Itsy move right, Itsy jump. Okay. So now that those exist, we can make them do something. So, like I said, double check my what I did already. So I'll scroll down to that. And there we go. Super easy it's going to be. So we're going to do an F vector. And then it's going to be direction. Equals F vector. And then it's cam boom. Dot get forward vector. Okay, so if you can picture it, we're in you sitting in your chair, you're the camera, right? So if you're looking forward at the screen, that is forward. So like it's gonna make him go up and down in the like field of view. So that's what your move forward's gonna do, because our camera is gonna be locked in one place. So to get that direction, we're pulling the forward vector of the camera itself. So then we're going to add movement. And then it's direction. And by amount. And false, because it's not a force. All right. And then we're going to do move right, exactly the same thing, except this time we're going to grab the right vector of the camera. So F vector, direction, equals F vector. And then it's going to be cam boom. Did I do camera boom or did I do camera? Yeah, I did camera boom. All right, so we're pulling off of the boom itself. Should be the same as the camera though, so get right vector. And then add movement input. And then we're going to go with the direction for the vector. And then cam boom. Let's here. Amount for the scale. And then it's not a force, so false. Okay, so that'll get us moving. All right, so now, and we have jump. It's going to be super, because we want to call the jump function in the parent class. Okay. So that is there. Eventually we'll put some additional logic in here, but at this point we just want to pull that from ACharacter. Okay, so that is set up. Now we need to actually connect up these functions to our inputs. So up here we have our setup input component. So the input component is going to handle all of the input. It's going to take, like when I press A or B or whatever, it's going to run through actually the player controller and then eventually here. So that all happens pretty much under the hood, so no worries there. All we have to do is set up the connections so that way the system can do what it's got to do. So it's going to be player input. So player input components, and then it's bind axis. So we've got bind axis and bind action. Those are the two you're mostly going to be spending time with. So bind axis is going to be like your thumbsticks or your mouse, where it's going to give an axis value. So like when you hit your thumbstick and you push forward on it, it's going to give a positive value. And when you pull back, it's going to give a negative value that's going to scale to 1. So that's what we're grabbing here. So we're going to bind the axis, and we need to have a name so that way it can correspond to what's in the editor. So you'll see that when we get back to the editor after we get this set up. So it's going to be move forward. And then it needs a reference to the object, which is itself, so this. And then after that is going to be the delegate function. So it's going to be there, and it'll be a Itsy move forward. Okay, so then move forward is now connected. Then we got to do the same thing with move right. So bind axis, and then it's going to be move right this time. A Itsy, and then move right, and that is good. All right, and now for the jump, should be able to do player input component dot bind action, and then it's going to be same thing before. So it's going to be jump, and this is a little different. So now it needs the basically the input event type. So it's IE underscore, and there's pressed and released. Those are the two that we're most interested with. So it's pressed, and then again it's this. And then in this case, we're actually going to go ahead and just call the jump on the character. So a character, and then we'll do a character, and that's jump. Okay, so we're just going to pull that. So we're actually kind of skipping over the jump that we put in there, but later we're going to go back and use that. So just give you a heads up. So player, actually, you know what? While we're in here, let's just go ahead and make that a thing, because we're going to come back and do that later. So we need to override two different functions. So we need stop jumping. So no sense in skipping over it. We'll just go ahead and put it in there so it's good from the get-go. So void a Itsy stop jumping, and then we're going to want super stop jumping. There we go. So it's basically just passing through our functions, so we can add our own custom code later, and then we can get rid of the a character and make it a Itsy. And then so base character jump, and then player input component bind action. This one's also going to be jump, and in this case it's going to be IE release. And then this a Itsy stop jumping. So there you go. So like when you press jump, it's going to start jumping, and then when you release it, it calls not stop jumping. So there, this should be good. This should have all of the things we need. Barring anything I forgot, we should be able to go ahead and build, and then see if it compiles. And if it compiles, then we'll go ahead and go back over to the editor. So we're going to compile it. Okay, and then just to make sure that this is nice and clean, I'm going to exit the editor that I had left up, which I probably shouldn't have done, but I did anyway. And then I go up to debug and start without debugging, and then it'll load my project back up. And then we can make changes in the editor. Okay, so we're back in the editor, and we can make this a thing. Okay, so we kind of need to do two little things, and then we're going to set up the character itself. So we're going to want a game mode base. Any project comes with a generic game mode base. It's like the only C++ class that is automatically there. So we're just going to go ahead and use that because we can change that within our code. It's like there, it's ours. We can play with it. So right click on that, and you're going to create a blueprint class for that. We're going to put it in blueprints, and we're going to name it something a little better. So it's always BP for blueprints. So BP game mode base. So that's our BP game mode base. Boom. All right. That's going to open this up. we're going to leave it open, but we're not going to do anything with it just yet because we need the character as well. So right click on the Itsy base, the C++ class for our base character. And then in this case, I want to put it in characters. And then it's BP underscore Itsy base character. Just character base is probably good. So yeah, that's probably better that way. So create that. And then huzzah, we now have a character. All right, so let's do some stuff in our base character. So the mesh, we want to use that testing mesh that we made. So there she is. And we're going to want to adjust our capsule. I think in one of the earlier videos, I had put in 100 and 100 and said that was a meter. That's not true. That's a half height. So 100 and 100 is actually a 2 meter sphere in diameter. You know, so just kind of a slip of the tongue there. So in this case, we're going to make him 2 meters. So we're going to have to adjust the Itsy character. We're going to rotate him 90 degrees so he's facing in the right direction. So that little blue arrow, that's his forward direction. So this would be where his, you'd be facing that way. So we want to make our character, our mesh, fit within that. Okay, so then now that we have this set up, our capsule the right size, we want to jockey Itsy into place. So we can go, I like to go to front from perspective, and then that's going to give me this nice wireframe that I can see just really well. So then I take the mesh and I'm going to put it so that way it's at the base of the circle, like my root is at the base. And that'll get me where I want to get. And then I can do a right or a left, it doesn't matter. And then I can see, where I'm sitting. So like if I want to adjust him back a little bit or forward, this actually looks pretty good. We've got a lot of actually collision up here above him. I think later on we may have to like refine how we're doing the collision mesh. But for now, this is going to be like perfect. So we've got this going. We're going to go ahead and compile that. I'll put this back to perspective so I can see it as is. Okay. And then here's our camera. And it's using an absolute rotation. I guess I could have set its rotation before, but we'll go to the camera boom. We'll set this to, 45 maybe? No, that's the wrong way. We want to go -90. Yeah, there we go, -90. We'll set that in C++ as a default later. So you'll see it's using the absolute rotation. That's some of the stuff we set up in C++. See, it just kind of like, works. And then like our target, that's the value we put in. Like we put all that to there. Okay, and then I want to rotate this so it's got kind of an angle, as well. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate it. The camera boom. Rotate it on the Y, just kind of, I'm thinking like right there. It's probably good. Okay. Now that should work just fine. So we'll be facing, whenever we start, Itsy will be facing this way. And if everything went right with our settings, we should be good. So we'll go from here. Let's see, we got that. We got to hook up those input settings. So if you go to project settings and then go to input, we have to map those actions and axis mappings. So we bound them in C++ to what function they go to, and now we need to map them. So the first one we're going to do is move forward. Okay, and then we're going to do A. So when we move forward, it's going to be, actually W. My bad. So W, and then S is our negative, so is backwards, so S. And then we want to scale that by -1. That way, when we have a value for this, it's going to give us a -1 instead of a +1. It'll get us going in the right direction. And we're definitely going to want to use Gamepads, so it's going to be Gamepad, and then it's your left. All right, and it's the left thumbstick Y. So Y is going to be forward and back, and X is going to be left and right on that thumbstick. So we want the Y axis. We can leave the scaling to 1. That's perfectly fine. All right, and then some people like to use the up and down arrows, so we're going to go ahead and add those as well. So up. and then down. All right, and then it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be a -1 for the down arrow. Okay, so that should be good for move forward. Now we're going to do move right. So if you get all this and you're doing this and it doesn't work, double check and take a look to make sure what you put here is the same as what you put in that string that you were feeding into the input mapping. Because if those two don't match, it won't work. So move right is going to be D. And that's scaled at 1. Move left is moving right to the left. I don't know. Anyway, to go in the opposite direction, it's going to be A. And then we're going to scale that by -1. And then, let's see here. So that's that. Okay, so now we need Gamepad. I did Gamepad, so it's X. And then we're going to do right. That's going to be positive. And then we're going to do left. And that'll be negative. And then you don't have to do anything as far as saving project settings. Once you put them in there, they're there. So that's all we should have to do with that. Oh, we forgot jump. So we'll go project settings again. And then we go back to input. And then we want to add an action mapping. So in this case, it's going to be jump. So it's going to be, let's see here, space bar. And then for the gamepad, should be face bottom. That'd be the A button on an Xbox. So the face buttons are going to be, bottom is going to be A, and then left is X. All right. Yeah, left is X, right is B, and up is Y. So those are your face buttons. So yeah, should be good. All that's set up. Okay, now we can test her out. So make sure that this is saved and compiled, and then we can go to our game mode base. Now the game mode is going to decide what's being used. So we want to go to our default pawn and change that to BP character base, and then save and compile that. And then in our map, we're going to then go to the details, world settings. Yeah, here it is, game mode. So we're going to make this our BP game mode base. And then you'll see down here our BP character base is in our default pawn class. So that is our character. Okay, and then we have our player start right here. And we should be able to play, and it should work. So here's forward, see, back, see left, down, and he jumps. He doesn't move fast, but he orients to the movement, and he's doing what we want him to do. So we can make some changes, some tweaks, and we can later go back in and adjust those to fit. Because like I feel like this is a little far out, so now it's time to like refine some of those numbers. So let's see here. So we'll go ahead and go back to the character base. That camera doesn't feel far enough away. So I'm going to make the boom, let's see here. Let's try 700. And then I felt like the angle was good, but he moves awful slow, right? So I can go down here into character movement, and then character movement general settings, walk speed. Want walk speed. So max walk speed, let's set that to, let's say 750. So 750 centimeters a second. So he'll keep going until he gets to that speed. All right, and then jumping. Let's give him some more velocity. So right now he's jumping at 420 centimeters a second. Let's bump that up to like 600 centimeters a second. And then we'll do air control in a minute. Air controls, so the Z velocity is going to be basically how much oomph he's going to have jumping. That's how much force he's going to get on the Z. You know, like that's going to be what his acceleration there is. So we want that. And then air control is essentially how much control he has while he's in the air. Since we're doing a platformer, we're going to end up having a higher value there once it's set. So let's see if that moves a little faster. It feels a little better. Jump still feels a little sluggish though. Yeah, I feel like that's sluggish. That is not quite fast enough for me. So let's see here. I'm gonna go in here. Let's give it some 800. Let's just kind of bump that up a little bit. Seeing how far that gives me. Okay, so now I got some more jump. Not quite. I want to get him higher than that though. I want him to really get going. So that feels good, but it's not quite good enough. So I can go in here, and a lot of this is, personal preference and whatnots, but you just kind of want to play with things until you get it. So we'll go ahead and give him a lot more jump. So, see if I can get onto this block here. Oh, no. Ah. Oh, yeah, that's right. I don't have a blocking volume, so I just went right through that wall. So I'll have to get that set up. I feel like I should want to jump higher. Okay, so that's not quite enough. Let's see here. A lot more than that. So we'll try 1600. Because Itsy needs to have some. There we go. All right. It might be a bit much. All right. Yeah, no, that's actually, I think that's good. That's good. Okay, now let's see here as far as the movement goes. That feels slow to me for what we're doing. Okay. Okay, so yeah, still, I think that'll work. Let's adjust its Z control and see if that gets us more in line with where we want to be, or the air control, sorry. Let's see here. Let's go with 0.25. See if that's going to be good. All right, because we want them to be able to, when somebody jumps, we want them to be able to adjust where they're at. And at any point during your process, you can change these values to, make it feel more like what you're doing. That seemed closer to what I'm looking for. Okay, we'll try again. Let's bump it up to like 4 or 5. That's probably double what we just did, so that's probably going to be too much, but we can zero it in. Okay, yeah. Okay, I'm going to start with that as our bases. So, good deal. Okay, so everything's working. We have created a character in C++. We have made it run around and jump and do things. In the next video, we're going to add a zoom to our jump camera, so that way when we jump, we actually like zoom out. So we're going to do that next. So, thanks for watching. It's been fun. I'm glad I can finally get into some C++ and make something actually happen. Getting Itsy to move around is good. So, just living the dream. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Drop them in the comments and whatnot, and I will enjoy seeing you guys later.